This is Kate Baconsale. You're listening to Baconsale.
Be seated. Now, I want you to remember that no Baconsale host ever won an argument by being embarrassed of his opinion. He won it by making the other poor host be embarrassed for his opinion. Listener, all this stuff you've heard about Baconsale not wanting to fight, wanting to stay out of Rushmore, is a lot of horse dung. Joel and Kent traditionally love a fight, and all real listener love the sting of their battle. Yeah, it's Baconsale.
Yeah. Nice. Woo. I think a little more gravel in your voice, and that would have been spot on.
There we go.
Maybe some Star Spangled Banner in the background.
Yeah, just a big, huge one over
General?
the back.
That was
Thank
good.
you.
And you even made it family friendly.
Aw, I took out some words.
I did. You changed some words there.
Just for you, Joel.
Thank you. Welcome to Baconsale. I'm Joel.
I'm Kent.
And I'm Zach.
And we'd like to thank you for listening to our last show, our Twilight show.
Hey.
Aren't you happy it's done, though?
I'm glad it's over. I'm not glad we did it.
I'm glad we did it because it was a challenge. That's why we did the show. Mm-hmm. It's a personal challenge.
I failed that challenge because I hate that series. But we have some quotes here I'd like to read. Jonathan Vasgar, the man who gave us the suggestion.
Yeah, his fault, everyone.
Yeah. He said, I'm impressed. I haven't laughed that hard in a while. I hope you keep doing these defending the indefensible. And we may in years down the road.
2 more years.
Takes a while to recover. Mary Nolan Cox says, also, as someone in the target demographic, the books were definitely better than the movies. Breaking Dawn was underwhelming, and I lost interest. New Moon was my favorite, but The Host is better than all of them. This is a reboot I could get behind. # Team Jacob. And she was replying to Zach.
Hey, so she greenlit my show.
So Team Zach.
Yeah.
But not Team...
She's Team Jacob.
That's what I'm wondering. Is she Team
context.
Jacob Black or is she Team Jacob Rogers? I don't know.
The one that takes his shirt off.
¿Por qué no los dos?
That doesn't narrow it down.
Exactly.
And then finally, from Valerie Lovelace Ilguth, she said, oh, I have so many thoughts on Twilight. I was married and out of college when I read it, so I knew I wasn't exactly the target audience, but I still hated the story. Somehow I managed to hate read all 4 books. Mm-hmm. Edward creeped me out and had so many manipulative red flags. Through the entire series, I was waiting for Bella to figure out some sort of dark secret about him. But no, she married him. I still don't trust him. I was Team Jacob all through book 2 because they actually seemed to have a friendship and the relationship went beyond the creepy infatuation. I was so mad when she still chose Edward. Like, what is the relationship even built on? I've never bothered with the movies, but might have to watch them when my daughters get older. Maybe I'll use them as examples of dysfunctional relationships. Props to you guys for finding enough positive content for this episode.
There it is. Yeah. She says that she hate read them and hate watched them.
She doesn't watch
She has like a hate grudge.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's what a grudge is, but she won't let it go. No.
Save it for the grudge show?
Yeah, eventually.
Hey.
Also, we have a new iTunes review.
Nice.
Woo. This is from Captain Trigger, who gives it 5 stars.
Okay.
And I say
I'm
that
liking
because
it so far.
I say that because he says 5 stars. C. Kent, 5 stars.
Oh,
the superior way to rate things. That being said, Baconsale is definitely an A+.
Oh.
Yeah, so you got both of them there.
By the way, iTunes hasn't refreshed their site since 2003. So, yeah. I mean, I could see why they're doing stars and not letter grades.
Stop.
Netflix still does stars.
No, they do thumbs up or thumbs down.
Amazon Prime does stars.
Who does Metacritic? Do they do grades?
IMDb
Numbers.
does stars.
Numbers? No, that's my way.
Anyway, but we're not talking about that today. What are we talking about today, Zach?
Gentlemen, we're returning to the world of war. We're building a Rushmore.
Now, the last time we did this was way back in May of 2020. Episode 255, the Mount Rushmore of war movies.
But there's a reason. There's a reason last time. So we were trying to segment the wars and find a good way to break them up.
Because there's so many war movies out there.
And there's too many. Like, we have been dadding it up so much lately.
Oh, I know, with the Beach Boys and the war movies and the Twilight. It's all
Twilight's Teen
Was
Girl.
that supposed to be the show for Mom?
Yeah.
My poor mother.
Twi moms.
Yeah, so basically last time we covered some historical fictional epics and even ones that follow the World Wars, but now we are focused on World War I and World War II. And that is it.
We had a plan, too. Like, back when we conceived this show, it was too big for one show. And we said, well, let's break it up. And we thought, wouldn't it be great if Memorial Day we did one, and then the 4th of July, the show closest to 4th of July, without going over, we did the second part.
Price is Right.
Price is
rules.
Right.
Yes.
Game show.
But I realized something. We did it backwards. We should have done Memorial Day as the World War I, World War II show, and then done July 4th as the Revolutionary War and other war shows because it's 1776.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Because I totally forgot to talk about 1776 in the last show.
Yeah. So hindsight is 2020, but we're doing a show in honor of the 4th of July. Hoorah, America. Some of these movies have nothing to do with America, but they all have to do with America. because it's all from the years from July 28th, 1914 to September 2nd, 1945, the two major world wars that we have, and we're going to depict the best movies for them.
And there are so many movies to come through.
So many.
And honestly, most of these, because I actually asked the audience, I said, hey, if there's any personal favorites, tell me which ones to watch. And yes, I watched a ton. Still didn't even scratch the surface.
No, there's
too
so
many.
many. And they're all different types, too. Like, you get the In the Trenches one, you get the strategic planning one, you get the kind of the prisoner of war one.
Right.
There's like different
Holocaust
aspects
movies.
Oh, definitely, yes.
Holocaust. Much like your pick last time, we talked about Gone with the Wind, which is happening around that time period. There's lots of those
In the
movies,
thick
too.
of the Civil War, the heart of the Civil War, that movie lied, and then you guys didn't like it. But
I have come around. I'm sorry.
so can you explain to the listener who may have not listened to the last war movie show what we're going to do today with our war movies?
So we are first going to just go to our backyard, dig up a pile of dirt, or maybe make a little cement.
Paper mache, cement.
But we're going to build a little hill, our little personal Mount Rushmore, and it is with our 4 personal choices. There's not really going to be much argument, maybe some condescension.
Yes.
Always a little bit of insulting.
Yeah.
But say, hey, these are my personal favorite war movies. They may not be yours. They may not really represent anyone else's choices, but I'm going to build a paper mache Mount Rushmore in the back and hope it doesn't rain.
Yeah. Well, and I may make some out of, if I were a more handyman, it'd be wood and stone and things like that.
If you were?
If I were. But I don't. I have construction paper and some glue. That's what I'm going with.
I'm
here.
making a sandcastle, and I'm going to destroy it immediately after. But there's not only that, but then we are going to build the ultimate Mount Rushmore of World War movies.
So next to our war movies one, which I think had
Like
William Wallace's
somewhere on the
face
mountain behind our shared houses.
This is a shared one, but this is one where Kent and I are going to go to the committee being Zach.
Hello.
And we're going to present our 4 options, and hopefully there's some crossover, because that'll mean that it'll sell through and be chiseled on the mountain. But if it's not, then Zach has to choose which one gets on the national monument for everyone to see. It's
Right.
not just in our front yard or backyard.
And sometimes these may not even be our favorites, but they're the ones that I think best represent the genre.
Yes.
Even though there are multiple genres within World War movies.
Because I can respect a movie without liking it.
Right.
Also, I want to point out that there's so many good ones that I enjoyed, and it's hard for me to pick the 4 that I picked.
Are you more, or maybe we'll find this out, a classic World War watcher, or maybe newer movies, ones that have been made in the past 15, 20 years?
It's a mix of both. I tried to. That's the thing is, I tried to have a diverse picks here. So it was like some older ones, some newer ones about the camps or about the trenches. Like kind of just like trying to mix up World War I, World War II. Because darn it, World War II is the lion of this category. Like they are just so many movies about World War II because it was such an epic event.
World War I is kind of no man's land, if you know what I'm saying. Hey.
Well, I mean, what do you think it is about? Is it the vast epicness of the war? Is it America's involvement? What is it about
I
that
think
gives
it's
us so
we're
much
still
media?
attached to it in some ways.
Well, there was an ultimate villain in World War II.
Yes.
Like we have
there
the
was
Nazis.
a couple actually.
Pure good versus evil.
Yeah, it's like everyone still looks at those bad guys in World War II as like still the personification of evil.
Oh, in a movie, it's kind of a pet peeve of mine when they throw Nazis in the villain without any backstory, because it's just it's a lazy move of just like my bad guys are Nazis. There you go. They're just bad guys. That's all you need to know. And I'm like, but give me nuance, give me a reason, give me something here. And they're like, no, just Nazis. That's all you need to know. Bad guys.
Whereas you look at Germans in World War I, and in a lot of these movies, they depict the soldiers as just doing their job, and the leaders they don't show much at all. And so when the war ends, you're like, okay. And granted, many of these countries were punished for decades after.
Well,
but it wasn't the same. There weren't the same penalties even that there was after World War II.
Can I admit something, gentlemen? Yeah. So for this episode, I wanted to understand World War I and World War II a little bit better.
Okay.
Because World War II, I know the general gist of it. I think you get that just by living in the world. In fact, I found out that both of my grandpas on both sides served in World War II. One was in an army, and he was a medic in the Philippines. My grandpa Dado was, and then my grandpa Joe was in the Army Air Corps, which was pre-Air Force.
Wow!
And he was actually down in Okinawa. In fact, his brother, my grandpa Joe's brother, was killed in the Battle of the Bulge.
Wow!
So there's this connection that I have to it, but I wanted to know more. I wanted to understand it better, and so then I went through and watched a bunch of videos online learning about World War I and World War II. And I learned way too much than I should have for being a 40-year-old man.
Like you should have known this all
I
along.
should have
Is
known
that
a
what you're
lot
saying?
more.
Right.
And I have historian friends, and we have historian listener as well. But I just felt like I became a better person because of this episode, because I learned more about both my family and the history of this country.
Yeah.
So I learned something. If nothing else, if you guys hate my picks, I still learned something.
See, I think of World War I and I think trench warfare and mustard gas.
Uh-huh.
Whereas I think World War II and you think Hitler and both sides of the attack there.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, too, because watching these videos, I watched how war had changed with the world wars, like how that altered everything. Even just the uniforms, for example. Before, it was kind of like the French were wearing, I think it was like blue coats and red pants, and they got into World War I.
They had a lot of flair.
And it was like, you're not camouflaged at all. You're,
Right.
you're going down. And so then they started getting helmets and things like that. Aerial warfare started in World War I. Is kind of a major thing, dogfights and everything. So, like I said,
Okay, we'll get into it.
we're not here for the history. In fact, most of these picks are not historically accurate.
I do like seeing, though, that if something was based on a true story, because as we talked about our historical epics, a lot of those were just made up.
Right.
Just to serve a time period.
But they're all they're based in history, and they're
Yes.
trying to give a flavor of a certain point of it. And I found a lot of my picks that I thought were historically accurate were mostly just fabrication.
Okay, I'm interested to find out.
So we'll get to that.
But let's get started, Zach.
Let's start up with You're doing your individuals first, right?
Yeah, our personal
You're gonna
backyard
do
monument.
Your mini golf monuments.
That's exactly it.
Mini golf monuments. And we'll go, are you just going to present back and forth, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. These are your personal picks, so we will not dispute them, but they are not free from a little bit of criticism.
It's going to be weird mocking some of these movies, though.
I know.
Yeah, I think they'll mostly be like, wow, that's a good
Your war movie
Yeah.
sucks.
Maybe there's a better pick.
Yeah.
What do you got, Kent?
War horse for all four heads. I just want four horses.
Four horsemen of the apocalypse.
Yeah.
Finally, a show I don't agree with you. Joel, give me anything else.
I actually chose all war horses as well.
Well,
Four
that's
horse
our show.
Finger hoof.
Oh, no. Please,
Finger
listener,
hoof?
help me.
Hold on, not hoof.
I don't
poop.
know what that.
I said finger hoof.
I don't know. What
Finger hoof.
All right, Ken, what's your
This is
first
staying in the show, by the
for
way.
your personal monument?
I got to start with the big one, and the one that's most obvious. It's Dunkirk from 2017.
Most
I
obvious
knew.
for you.
Yeah, I was going to say everyone knew that you were going to pick Dunkirk as soon as they saw the image for this episode. They're like, Dunkirk, it's going to be in there.
That's because they know if you think about war at this point. I
So
think
why do you
Dunkirk
like
comes
this
to your mind.
mediocre war movie, Ken?
Are you really calling it mediocre?
It's good.
And you're standing by that.
No, it's good. It's good.
So if you don't know the story of Dunkirk, it's Allied soldiers from Belgium, the British Empire, and France are surrounded by the German army and evacuated during a fierce battle in World War II.
Did you know about the story of Dunkirk before going into the movie?
Very,
Dunkirk?
very, very little. In fact,
I knew nothing
nothing.
about Dunkirk before going in to see Dunkirk.
So you didn't, and by the way, like, I think
it's more of a British history thing than
it
American
is,
history
and
thing.
it's such a huge moment for them.
Yeah, kind of a rah-rah, stiff upper lip moment.
In fact, Christopher Nolan said, longer quote, but he said, "This is an essential moment in the history of World War II. If this evacuation had not been a success, Great Britain would have been obliged to capitulate, and the whole world would have been lost, or would have known a different fate. The Germans would undoubtedly have conquered Europe. The U.S. would not have returned to war. It's a true point of rupture in the war and in the history of the world." And so he's saying if that never happened, because at that point, when they successfully got most of the soldiers back, when they were able to rescue
Spoiler
them
alert for history.
off the beach, exactly, Winston Churchill was able to use that as a moment of this major, maybe first huge success.
Well, it's also
for them.
It's civilians going in to save the soldiers.
And that's what's so unique about it. It's not soldiers saving civilians or just soldiers fighting each other. Civilians are coming in to save 400,000 soldiers.
so many.
So my question is, following up, where we want one head or one thing representing on Rushmore, what would you possibly pick for this movie? 'Cause
There are
it's kind of
so
a team effort.
many because
I know who you should pick.
well, yes, I should, but you know who I'm going to pick? The story of my life.
Harry Styles.
Harry Styles.
Come on.
Yeah.
Putting Harry Styles
He's
in my
it for 10
backyard.
minutes.
What's his name on the civilian on the boat? Isn't that Mark Rylance?
Yeah, Mark Rylance.
I would pick
There's
him.
Kenneth Branagh, Fionn Whitehead. He plays the main kid in the movie. But it's got to be Harry
You
Styles.
should do just the feet poking out of the mountain, the bare feet poking out of the mountain.
Look, I have got 2 daughters that are eventually going to know who One Direction are, maybe. So when they see...
They'll know who Christopher Nolan is before they know who One
Okay,
Direction
good.
is.
I hope Harry Styles'
As
legacy...
you as your dad, definitely.
Yeah, that's true. But it's a unique movie because it's a third act of a movie. It's like you get rid of all the romance and then the characterization before, which truthfully is missing in this movie. And then it's like, boom, it's war, and it's all the time, and it is so crazy frantic.
When you watch it, because I think, listener, you should watch it. When you do, just know that there are 4 different time periods.
3 different timelines.
A triptych that's 3 timelines.
3 timelines. And so they're going at different speeds. So it's kind of disorienting at first to be like, how long have they been on this beach versus how long have they been in the air? But if you kind of go into it knowing that it's showing it from different points of view in different times, it makes more sense.
Like one is over a week, one's over is it like a day or a couple days?
And then one's over a couple hours.
Yeah.
So the movie feels simplistic because it's just a war movie where you just see battle happening, but what it becomes is amazing. And one of his best pieced together films. The reality of this one is a little bit different. There's a lot of truth here, but there were 90,000 people that were either wounded, killed, or taken prisoner. Like 11,000 Brits lost their lives here. And so out of 400,000, yes, they saved most of them, but they didn't actually show one of the coolest things is what I found out. The French were
Tom
actually...
Hardy's face?
Yeah, you don't see Tom Hardy's face, but the French were actually defending the line. So the Germans also were a little worried. There was kind of a standoff there, but they defended the Germans from attacking everyone on the beach because they could have picked them off easily had they just pushed on.
Yeah.
But they didn't show that in the movie, that the French actually kind of sacrificing themselves for everyone. But I love this movie because you can taste the salt water, you sit inside the cockpit, you feel the urgency of the waves, just as you're traveling to Dunkirk to save these soldiers.
Taste salt water. I don't think I want to.
No, but you don't. When you're watching this movie, don't you kind of just feel everything, and the sound is so enveloping as well.
It is a visceral experience.
It's the story of my life.
Yes,
that's why I actually in a previous show put this as my one and done because I love this movie, but it was just such a crazy experience seeing it in the theaters, and I felt
kind of punches you in the
tense
face.
And stressed. I was like, I don't know that I need that again, but wow,
yes,
it is the least Nolan movie though.
It's true.
And
that's
that's
not
not
our
like
Nolan show. My first one of my personal monuments.
Joel?
Guys, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
Okay.
I'm choosing Joyeux Noël, which is French for Merry Christmas. This is a 2005 First World War movie. This is my World War I pick, and I actually really, really enjoy this movie.
I've never seen it.
What?
I kind of want to mock you for choosing it, but I've never seen it.
So this is the synopsis. In December 1914, an unofficial Christmas truce on the Western Front allows soldiers from opposing sides of the First World War to gain insight into each other's way of life. This is PG-13. There's war violence and a brief scene, a sexual scene. But it's PG-13. The only person you'd probably recognize in the cast is Diane Kruger.
Oh, she's in it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kent's in.
I totally am, actually.
But it's a beautiful balance of the horrors of war with the spirit of Christmas because it's this French and Scottish and German soldiers. So, no British, no Americans here. Mm-hmm. They're coming together in this trench warfare. And then on Christmas Eve, I won't get into how, but they start kind of like, let's just put down our guns and just have Christmas together. And it's not like they're sitting down having a ham or anything. Like they're walking around, like they play some soccer together. Right. But it's like different countries coming together to play some soccer. They're hanging out. They sing Christmas carols together. And it's a beautiful, heartwarming, and heartbreaking movie. It's just well acted, well executed. It's one I think everyone really needs to see. And it's based on factual events.
Christmas movie?
Yeah, but okay. I mean, it's not like one of the ones where you like throw it in like, all right, time for our annual Joyeux Noël watching.
So I'm interested about the format. Does it have half battle in it?
There are some war scenes, and in fact, it's kind of hard because they're fighting against each other, and then kind of this unofficial that becomes official truce happens, and they're all kind of getting to know each other, and then they have to go back to fighting each other.
And you see them fight again. So it's like break.
Well, kind of, yeah. It gets to that point near the end where they have to make a decision of like, I know this person now. Is it as easy to harm them or to kill them? And so it was nominated for Best Foreign Language Film at the 78th Academy Awards. But it's based on true events that happened. And you can go see pictures of this. But it's this beautiful moment of camaraderie. And like you said, a lot of these soldiers were just kind of fighting for their country, just obeying orders. And when they realize each other are people, it takes on a whole new level of war. And it's a beautiful film. Like if you haven't seen this one, I highly recommend it. So
I know lots about this movie. Joel, who are you putting on Rushmore?
It's actually going to be
Diane Kruger.
There's a scene where I think it's a German soldier. I'd love to have Diane Kruger's face on there, honestly. But I had this image, and just go with me on this. There's this scene. I'm pretty sure it's a German soldier. He's got the helmet on. He's walking out, and he's holding this little kind of Charlie-bound Christmas tree. And so I want to have his face with his hands, and then actually plant a pine tree in the monument.
That's going to be tough in paper mache.
Well,
It's probably going to take over the mountain.
This one's going to be a dirt mound, I think. But
It's not going to last long.
yeah, probably not. But yeah, Joyeux Noel. That's French. Joyeuxnoel. Or Merry Christmas, if you want to call it. Lots of subtitles in this one, but it's okay because it's really good.
Okay.
Okay. All right, Kent, you're up again.
Speaking of Diane Kruger, the second movie up on my
Oh,
melon
no.
is Inglorious.
Well,
Illegitimate Children.
That's what we're calling it?
Inglorious Baconsale.
I mean, really, I'm just looking at Joel and asking what I can say.
Well, they spell it wrong, so it's not technically like you're saying.
Technically, I can say Inglorious Bastards.
Sure.
Or sometimes I say Barsteads.
Barstead?
We'll go with that. Inglorious Barsteads.
Inglorious Barsteads.
Yes.
Quentin Tarantino's movie.
Inglorious Barsteads.
Yes.
It's the PG-13 version.
Yeah.
So from 2009, in Nazi-occupied France during World War II, a plan to assassinate Nazi leaders by a group of Jewish U.S. soldiers coincides with the theater owner's vengeful plans for the same. Directed by Quentin Tarantino, starring Brad Pitt, Diane Kruger, Melanie Laurent, and Christoph Waltz.
So you're putting
that
Diane Kruger's face on there.
Role. I could put anyone's face. Aldo Raines, Brad Pitt's Aldo Raines
That's
is
what comes to
perfect.
mind for me.
His lip hanging out.
Gorlami.
But it's hard to say.
Nazis.
I mean, Christoph Waltz's head.
I feel like Christoph Waltz makes this movie, but he's certainly the antagonist, but he is kind of the draw for me.
Well, okay, so
But nobody knew that going in.
I have a love-hate relationship with this movie.
How could you hate it at all? Go ahead.
Well, just because
You hate to love it?
well, it's so Christoph Waltz stuff was fantastic.
That opening scene. Oh,
Yeah. Oh, the opening scene is like that's what I go see this movie
so
for.
tense.
But I have to say, Kent, that it got to the point, and this was Quentin Tarantino's intention, and I understand that. So please don't get after me.
Eyes of Death right now.
But it got to the point where they were killing. Like there was a scene where one of the soldiers was like, "I don't want anything to do with my party. They made me fight," and they're like, "Don't care, Nazi." Boom, 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 kill him. And I was like, "You've just become the thing you hate. Like these people who just hate someone because they're other, and you hate them because they're Nazi because they're other, even though this person may have had some sort of, aversion to what he was doing. Doesn't matter. You're filled with this, you're gone."
I mean, but that's also the thing about the Barsteads is it makes it sound like a
family.
Barstead quartet. but it's like when they're introduced, these guys who are out for revenge for basically their entire people, they look like they can't be stopped, and they won't be stopped.
And it's revenge prawn.
Yes,
as we've said,
so much that when first time you see this movie, not knowing anything about it, they do revise history. This is what Tarantino does.
That kind of rubbed me the wrong way as well.
Oh, hardly. This is the justice we all deserve. But everyone wanted to see this in reality, and when it's done in a movie, it's so farcical. But
it is.
Man, is it satisfying.
But I guess I just don't get the revisionist history thing.
You don't.
I understand it, I guess, but it doesn't gel with me as much. Like those are the two things that I kind of went,
In a way, this is Tarantino doing what he does, because all his movies are about film itself and celebrating film, and this movie literally ends by film killing the villains.
It does.
So, and if you've seen the movie,
screen.
If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. But for me, every scene in this movie is perfect.
I like how we're so hesitant to spoil these movies.
Right? I know, even though it's been out forever. If you haven't seen it, go see it right now. Heavier content. There's some intense stuff here, but I'm
pretty sure that one's on Clear Play and Bid Angel too. So.
It should be, but I love every scene here. Everyone is great in this movie, and the two biggest, the tensest scenes are the first one,
so good,
and also the one where
in the bar,
the bars. And he holds up the three fingers
with Magneto.
Yeah, Michael Fassbender in his best role.
Oh, come on. But it is a great role. In his best role, he's in there for 4 minutes.
You could really honestly make that argument because he's that good in this movie. But
Kent, where are you going to go on this? Are you going to love Michael Fassbender, or are you going to try to...
I love Michael Fassbender, but he's better as Magneto.
Hey, guys, I agreed with Joel.
Okay, Joel, remember that.
Okay, a 4-minute agreement.
I wanted to call you a name, but, I've been using it all too often as I'm talking about this movie.
Barstead. You're calling me a Barstead?
But yes, this movie, to me, is Quentin Tarantino's best, and it's...
Really?
Oh, absolutely.
His best?
His best.
Save it for the Tarantino show.
It is his most perfect movie.
Really? Mm-hmm. Wow.
I stand behind it.
I'm not going to argue with you.
Have you seen the one with the toes?
All of them. All right, Joel, what's your second choice?
Okay, my next one probably should have been on my should be on the National Monument. I didn't want to have any crossover this time though, and so I ended up putting this on my personal monument, and it's 1957, The Bridge on the River Kwai.
Hold on. Can you guys both try to whistle? By the way, awful sounding in
Terrible,
podcast
just
mics.
like blowing into the
I
mic.
tried to blow off the mic. So this one, 1957, if your only experience with Alec Guinness is him as Obi-Wan Kenobi in the original Star Wars trilogy, you're missing out. The guy is a fantastic actor, and a bunch of other roles I've seen him in. This is probably his best. I might say this is better than Obi-Wan Kenobi in his acting.
It is.
This is, I think, his
which
what
is-
he's known for.
It's
most.
funny he didn't like himself in this role.
He didn't like himself as Obi-Wan either.
Yeah.
I think he's very hard on himself. But this movie, so here's a synopsis from IMDb. British POWs are forced to build a railway bridge across the River Kwai for their Japanese captors, not knowing that the Allied forces are planning to destroy it. And this was directed by David Lean, who did Lawrence of Arabia and Dr. Zhivago. So he's done some big movies.
That's big stuff.
Rated PG. So I think this is a classic film that everyone should see. And like I said, it's based on them building this bridge, these prisoners of war having to build a bridge for the Japanese soldiers down in Burma, I think it is. It's an amazing tale of maintaining your dignity in the face of adversity. Because Alec Guinness is just, he's a British soldier.
He's so British.
He's very British and very
How
stiff
British
upper
is
lip.
he?
And he gets to the point where like he's being locked in this hot box for days. And when they let him out, he still kind of buttons up his shirt and walks very proper back to the office to go have negotiations. But he's able to withstand kind of just giving into despair by following this protocol which he has been taught and being very dignified and proper.
He wants to make sure this bridge, which they're being forced to build,
Yeah.
is of the best workmanship.
And that's one of the best parts about it is that it starts out with them like kind of building this shoddy bridge. And he's like, no. If we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. And we're going to show them the British know how to build a bridge. And they put their heart and souls into this bridge, which, spoiler alert for 1957, then the Americans want to destroy. And all of a sudden he's like, no, don't destroy this bridge. I made this. This is a monument. And
Right.
it's amazing to see him kind of flip sides on that, where he's obviously with, the Allied forces, but then he's like, no, I want this to succeed.
Wasn't it William Holden who wanted to...
Yeah.
Heading up that, yeah.
So this is a movie, we whistled, by the way, because that's the POWs whistle that tune, the Colonel Bogey March, during part of it. And that became kind of a little, it was already in the war, but then it kind of became a popular tune. But this is the highest grossing film of 1957, won 7 Academy Awards, including Best Picture at the 30th Academy Awards. And it's based on a true story, but very, very different. Like it's the movie's almost entirely fictional in regards to character and things like that.
Well, for example, General Saito, who is the one keeping him captive, he was actually much nicer to the prisoners.
Well, but they also said, it was funny because like the British people were saying you didn't portray the horrors of the camp.
Right.
And the Japanese people were saying, you're saying we can't build a bridge as well as the British can. And we don't like that. And I'm like,
Right.
what about the camp?
Also, the bridge was never destroyed.
No, it's still there today. Well,
Yeah.
one of them is still there today.
Right.
They restored it and they actually still use it. One of the people who was actually in the camp and helped build the bridge, he said the impression was given that British officers not only took part in building the bridge willingly, but finished in record time to demonstrate to the enemy the superior efficiency. This was an entertaining story, but I am writing a factual account. And in justice these men, living and dead, who worked on that bridge, I must make it clear that we never did so willingly. We worked at bayonet point and under bamboo lash, taking any risk to sabotage the operation whenever the opportunity arose. So they were trying to sabotage this. And also I learned about this first because Billy Joel sang about it and we didn't start the fire.
Among
Bridge on the River Kwai.
among 1,000 other things.
Kent, you seem to know a lot about this. Is that for a future pick or is that for a personal pick?
Well, let me tell you about my third pick.
Do it.
It's The Great Escape.
That's not the same movie. You liar.
I was going for Bridge on the River Kwai, but the comedic version?
Yes.
Okay.
Because that's
Which, by the way,
basically
on
Great
the
Escape.
on the monument, it's going to be Alec Guinness's
Guinness.
dignified face as he's coming out of the hole. Like
Absolutely.
I love that.
I respect
Chin up.
that.
Yeah. All right. So Great Escape.
2
Which
hours.
Another iconic. Isn't there a music that's associated with that one? Yeah.
It honestly sounds very similar.
Very similar.
But very recognizable.
So this is 2 hours and 52 minutes. And listener, just so you know, these movies, which I've been watching so many, are almost all 3 hours long.
These war epics are long.
And you think about a lot of these movies, there's just so much talking that doesn't really advance the plot or character. And then maybe there's 11 minutes of actual action, which may be stock footage.
if you're in it for the boom boom, Kent, then that's fine.
I'm in it for the boom boom. Kaboom. Sparkle, sparkle.
Oh, no.
So Allied prisoners of war planned for several hundred of their number to escape from a German camp during World War II. Directed by John Sturges, who also did Magnificent Seven, starring Steve McQueen, James Garner, Richard Attenborough, Charles Bronson, Donald Pleasance.
A lot of famous
Such a
70s
good
actors.
cast.
The cast is amazing. This one, I would say the same criticisms fell on it because it's largely a true story. But the horrors of being a POW are not shown here.
No.
Basically, this camp, the real one, it's Stalag 3, was meant to be an...
Stalag meaning the German word for like prisoner of war camp.
Yes. It was meant to be a prison that people couldn't escape from. In fact, one of the guys that the characters was based on had escaped from 2 other camps. They sent him here because they said, you'll never escape here.
But which is more less showing the horrors of war, Great Escape or Stalag 17?
I haven't seen Stalag 17.
Oh, you should see that. It's the one the Hogan's Heroes kind of got spun off into a TV
So it is
show
meant
about.
to be a comedy.
It's weird. It's a comedy about a POW camp, but it was actually very well done. Didn't make any of my list. Honorable mention if we have those,
Okay.
but anyway, just
Yeah, I should
let's
watch
see
it
the POW
eventually.
camps. It was bizarre.
But yeah, this one, life is pretty posh. They're playing card games and they have a lot of spare time to dig. Shawshank style underground and garden and whatnot. And the cast is having a lot of fun. Steve McQueen is cool as ever, even though he sticks out like a sore thumb in this movie.
He really does.
He's Mr. Cool
Yeah, he's great.
all the time, even especially with the motorcycle thing, which never happened in real life.
No way, but
No,
you got to
that's
get
totally
Steve
Steve
McQueen
McQueen.
on a motorcycle.
You really do. And it
Absolutely.
works. Like I'm like, yeah, this is awesome.
When it got to the end, I'm not going to spoil it, but when it got to the end, I was like, what the heck? And I was kind of bugged. But then you read up about it and you're like, oh, okay. So they did still end up.
It's in the
helping.
title. It's okay.
Well, not exactly.
Not exactly.
I do want to spoil the movie from 1963 so bad.
Do it
but the
gently.
first, no, I'm not going to. The first time I saw this movie, I was like, what? But what? But what?
Yeah.
Because the movie is so lighthearted. But then at the end, you're like, oh, yeah, there are evil people in the world and evil decisions are made.
Yeah.
So I'll leave it there. But Great Escape, Steve McQueen's shiny face on my mouth.
This is a handsome thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Minute for the boom.
Well, let's keep the happy train rolling right now.
Oh boy.
this is a World War show.
Yeah.
What do you got, Joel?
No, mine actually is a comedy that I chose for my personal monument. It's 1997's Life is Beautiful.
Oh.
Oh boy.
Oh, great.
So
It's funny.
No, the thing is, it starts out as this cute, quirky comedy.
Yeah.
Which is, I think I've told this story. I think we told it on our crying show, maybe. But I went into this. This got attention at the Oscars. It won Best Foreign Film and Best Actor at the Oscars. And me and my buddy were like, hey, this is playing at the local theater. Let's go watch it. So we didn't know much about it. So we go into it, this is a goofy comedy. This is funny. Oh, wow, it's getting serious. Oh, wow, this is heavy. Wow, this movie is emotional. And I remember at the end just crying, and I had my buddy next to me, and I'm like, don't look over here.
Did you always cry in movies, or was this kind of a gateway
I've always
for tears?
cried in movies. I cried while watching the clips for this movie, Kent. Just barely. Like I was literally unloading the dishwasher, and I was like, don't cry, don't cry.
This movie helped me
We should probably tell what the
love
movie is.
subtitles.
Oh yes. It was one of
'Cause
the
I
first
never
foreign
liked them
films.
before.
That's one of the reasons I'm including it in my monument, because it was one of my first fully subtitled films that I loved. So the synopsis: when an open-minded Jewish librarian and his son become the victims of the Holocaust, he uses the perfect mixture of will, humor, and imagination to protect his son from the dangers around the camp. Directed by Roberto Benigni and also starring him. Rated PG-13. This is heavy. You don't want to show this to little kids probably, because it starts off goofy and you're like, oh, it's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
It's not all fun.
The budget was $20 million. It made $225 million.
Made some big money.
That's a lot considering the subject.
Not a true story, though.
No. In fact, he said he made specific changes to make it historically inaccurate, because it's like, I'm not making a movie about the actual events. I'm making a movie about the concept.
Well, a lot of people criticized it and still do because it makes light of the Holocaust.
It gets both sides. I've seen Jewish critics saying this is actually good because it portrays it in this way that we've never seen before and draws attention to it. Other people are saying, you can't do a comedy about that.
But think about it, like it's being narrated by his son. The dad was saying that this is all a game, trying to make sure that life was easier
Yes.
than it actually was. And so the son is telling it as if it's a fairy tale he experienced at the time. And I think
Yeah.
in that way, the narrative structure really works.
Oh, it really does. And it's also, that's what it is. At its heart, it's a story about a father protecting his child. And it's very, very touching to watch. Even as goofy as it can get at times, and as unrealistic as it gets at times, the emotion is there. Now, I do want to bring up Roberto Benigni, the director. He says one of the reasons people talked about, we can't make a comedy about the Holocaust. And he didn't make light of the Holocaust. I should clarify that. He's not going for ha-ha funny, isn't this weird? It's more like it starts out as a comedy and then it turns into this serious thing where he's trying to be funny to his son to keep his spirits up.
Right.
But he said, to laugh and to cry comes from the same point of the soul. No, I'm a storyteller. The crux of the matter is to reach beauty and poetry. It doesn't matter if that is a comedy or tragedy. They're the same if you reach the beauty. By the way, Pope John Paul, who received a private screening with Benigni, placed it as top 5 favorite films. So it's got the Pope's approval.
Okay.
I don't know if that means anything.
We're having a sleepover with the Pope.
Weirdly enough, he also likes Batman and Robin, so we'll see.
Can you imagine Pope John Paul liking Batman and Robin?
I like the ice
all have
buns.
guilty
One of my
pleasures.
favorites.
Is it a guilty pleasure if the Pope likes it?
No,
That's a blessed pleasure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
It
Life
is.
is beautiful. And it's going to
Such
be
a good
Roberto
movie.
Benigni's
Richard
goofy
Benigni.
face.
Guido.
Yeah. Guido, what if he, I can't say his last name.
See.
Buongiorno, Principessa. I watched, and that's the thing, watch this one with subtitles, not dubbing, please.
Yes. Yep. Agreed. Good choice, Joel.
Thank you.
Kent?
All right. My fourth choice, I'm putting another German up on my mountain.
Oh, boy. How handsome is he, though?
You know, he's
Who do you have so far in your mountain?
Christoph Waltz.
Yeah.
You have Harry
Yeah, I'll get
Styles,
to it.
Harry Styles, Christoph Waltz, and Steve McQueen. This is a very handsome.
Nobody really knows
handsome
what's going on
mountain.
here.
Yeah.
Until now, because I'm putting Jürgen Prochnow on my mountain
What?
from Das Boot
Oh.
from 1981.
What a great choice.
You've seen this one.
I like Das Boot.
I'm going for a hipster choice on this, and I'm so happy you've seen it.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Das Boot.
My dad is a big World War II guy, so I've seen a lot of like the big war movies.
Yes.
And Das Boot is a good one.
I've won the boot. I have not watched Das Boot.
No, Das Boot means the boat.
The boat.
I almost said da boat.
The boat.
We
So-
in the boat now, boys.
The synopsis is poorly worded, but it says the claustrophobic world of a World War II German U-boat. Boredom, filth, and sheer terror. That's all it says.
That sounds
I
like
don't
Run
know why.
Silent, Run Deep.
Yeah,
Except as
so,
Americans.
And actually, I watched Run Silent, Run Deep today, and both movies remind me of the same, except for one went for a little more slapstick
Right.
with some real emotions. Run Silent, Run Deep, that is.
Yeah.
This other one is straight up, and it's 1981, so it's not the best technology, but it is so cramped, and you feel everything.
Yeah.
These guys, they actually kept the full cast. Oh, by the way, these are all Germans doing their job
In Das Boot.
in Das Boot. Even the captain, he's not even a Nazi. He's just a guy. He's a good captain for a submarine.
And this is an interesting take because so often it's just if you are German, you are a Nazi. And that's not what this is portraying.
In fact, he's just trying to keep his team alive, and his boat is getting attacked left and right. And
They
it's
actually
just
call it bow and, or port and stern. No. Dang it. My dad said
aft
it.
and
No, aft is back.
okay,
Port and what is the starboard? Thank you.
port and starboard.
Yeah.
They're getting attacked port and starboard by barsteads.
Starbursts?
Starburns. What's happening to this show?
Oh, boy.
But,
Sorry, Dad.
But it is just harrowing. This is just a full-on survival movie. And the original one, which I saw in film class in college, first time I saw it was 2 hours and 20 minutes, which is
That's
good.
a short war movie.
And then now there's a director's cut, which you can only find in German now, by the way, with subtitles. And by the way, the cast, it was, obviously filmed in German by Wolfgang Petersen in 81. But the cast all spoke English, so they did another version. They just dubbed their English voices over. But the director's cut is 3 hours and 40 minutes.
Which one did you watch?
Last night I watched the 3 hour, 40 minute Das
and?
Boot.
Bold.
It's really good, but it's more stress. Like, it's not needed because it's more stress.
Okay.
I think a lot of these movies, you talked earlier about how not a lot of the dialogue stretches out, the plot and things like that. But I
Yes.
think the dull and the boring moments are part of the atmosphere in this movie.
Yes. And in fact, you see the madness, which a lot of these movies, especially World War I movies, I noticed, was about the madness that war brings on.
Yeah.
And this movie does that because, so Roger Ebert said,
Is this World War I or is this
World War
II?
II.
Okay. Are all your personal picks World War II?
yes, they are. I wanted to pick World War I, but I had to go World War II. Roger Ebert said, war is hell. Being trapped in a disabled submarine is worse. Because these guys aren't on the front line. They're just doing their job. But at the same time, they're all going crazy, sometimes being stuck on the bottom of the ocean floor.
If someone were to watch it, would you recommend the director's cut or the original theatrical?
Oh, original. Watch the original. There's no need to watch a movie this long. You may be turned off. So if you can find the just slightly over 2 hours one, that's fine. That's the first one I watched, and I liked it. Great.
It's the only one I've seen. You didn't go with U-571? Matthew
Bon
McConaughey.
Jovi.
It's
Bon
fine,
Jovi.
but it's like rah, which is fine. It's a war movie.
I have no problem with rah movies.
Yeah.
Especially in war movies, but this one gives a different take.
Yeah.
And it's so unique.
Okay. Gotcha. And you're putting the captain on your
Yeah, Jürgen Prochnow.
Jürgen Prochnow. All right, Joel.
Okay, so on my monument, I have the German soldier holding the Christmas tree, little Charlie Brown Christmas tree. I have Alec Guinness's dignified face with his chin up, looking up upwards. I have Roberto Benigni having a goofy grin on his face, maybe winking. And then the last one, I'm going to have little Satsuko with her candy tin.
Oh,
No.
So I'm choosing Grave
Grave
of
of
the
the
Fireflies.
Fireflies.
So Grave of the Fireflies, this was a 1988 movie. And we talked about this very thoroughly on our Studio Ghibli show, so I'm not going to go into it too much. But if you don't know, if you didn't listen to that one, the synopsis is a young boy and his little sister struggles to survive in Japan during World War II. This is near the end of the war. Their city was firebombed. Their mother was killed. This is an animated movie directed by Isao Takahata, who directed Pompoko. And
Your favorite.
this is one where I was absolutely devastated by this movie, emotionally devastated by this movie. But I wanted to put this on my personal pick because I wanted to give some homage to the people that were just caught in the crossfire.
Yeah.
People that weren't soldiers, people that weren't affiliated with political parties. These are children who have to survive when their home is gone and their mother is gone. And it's heartbreaking.
Are you crying right now?
I'm trying not to.
You're doing okay.
You're doing okay.
Got this.
This movie haunted me after it was over. And so just watching it again when we did for the Ghibli show, I was like, why? Why again? Why am I doing this to myself? But it is a beautiful movie, but it's very, 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 very sad. Like, this is one that'll make you cry.
An animated movie and a war list.
Yeah.
I'm proud.
I wanted to have the variety here. And I was thinking of war movies that personally affected me. And Grave of the Fireflies, Life is Beautiful, Virgin River Kwai, and Joy Noel, all four of them. Personal movie moments for me when I was watching the movies about war. So like I said, we're not going for like the iconic best of all time, everyone loves them. These are ones that personally affected us. So there you go. There's my four. So there's my monument. Those are built.
Wow. Okay. And you did Setsuko?
Setsuko, yes.
Well, with that, Kent, you have a very handsome one. And Joel, you do have a very diverse.
I try.
With a Christmas tree.
Very diverse.
Well, it's a pine tree. It's not going to have ornaments on it or anything like that.
Eventually.
Well, okay. So
the
now that you
holidays.
have your mini golf monuments, we are going to now move into getting the national monument. Now, what this is going to take is a little bit of decision. You have both brought 4 choices that you think is the best, and you are going to make me choose. Thanks for that.
We're going to agree on this first one.
Okay.
Oscar Schindler is going to be up on that mountain.
Joel,
I actually had Keanu Reeves from A Walk in the Clouds.
you stop that right now.
I'll agree with
Returning
him.
World War II
Let's go with Keanu Reeves.
I mean,
I hate A Walk in the Clouds.
Of course
Walking
you do.
the Clouds is awful, but I like Keanu.
That's true. But no, I think Schindler's List should definitely be referenced on this.
So if you don't know about Schindler's List from 1993, in German-occupied Poland during World War II, industrialist Oskar Schindler gradually becomes concerned for his Jewish workforce after witnessing their persecution by the Nazis. Directed by Steven Spielberg.
who was the executive producer on Balto.
Steven Spielberg?
Is that
Or
the
Oskar
only-
Schindler?
No. Steven Spielberg was the executive producer on Balto.
That's the only other thing he's done?
I think so. I don't know much about him, but
In fact, there were so many directors that were going to take on this, like even Michael Bay at some point, but no one wanted to touch this movie. And even Steven Spielberg said, it was kind of a humble brag, but he said, really, no one will take this all that seriously unless I'm attached to it. And obviously, with his heritage, he's one that could really bring reverence to it as well.
Well, and I read like all the people he tried to pass this off to. Like he was like, Roman Polanski, take this. And Roman Polanski was like, no, I'll do a pianist instead. And then he offered it to, I think, Martin Scorsese and a couple other popular directors of the time. And it kept coming back to him. And he said, I have to do this. This is important.
And it was
for my
inspired.
family. I really think so. And he worked on this the same year as he did Jurassic Park.
What a
1993.
year.
In fact, they said the studio when they talked to him, he says, "I want to make this movie, and I want to make this movie." And they said, "You do Jurassic Park first, because if you do Schindler's List first, you won't be doing Jurassic Park."
No.
And it's true. Like it felt like after Schindler's List, Steven Spielberg's movies took a very severe turn to more serious.
So this is the only movie from the last 25 years that's made it onto the AFI's top 10 list. And I
Really?
think even top 100.
Wow.
It's number 9.
I was going to say it's high
on the
too,
AFI
right?
list.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it won 12, nominated for 12 Academy Awards, won 7, including Best Picture, Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay, and Best Original Score.
So I love this fun fact.
Wow.
Fun facts from
Fun
Schindler's
fact from
List.
Schindler's List. Wow.
So when Steven Spielberg first showed John Williams a cut of his movie, Williams was so moved that he had to take a walk outside for several minutes to collect himself. Upon his return, he told Spielberg that he deserved a better composer. Spielberg replied, "I know, but they're all dead."
All the ones you want, all the
Yep.
writer composers.
So it's your job. Fun facts from Schindler's List.
Yeah. Well, and I actually learned, I didn't know this, but I'm not going to say his name right. Poldek Pfefferberg.
Good try.
He was one of the survivors, one of the Schindler Juden, as they're called, the people who were saved by Schindler. And he made it his life's mission to make this movie made. And so, well, to tell his story.
Yeah.
So he actually was the one who got the guy to write the original book called Schindler's Ark, the 1982 novel. And then he also took that book to Steven Spielberg and said, "I want you to make this movie." So this one survivor said, "I need you to tell a story." And Steven Spielberg was actually not convinced it was true at the beginning. He says, "This sounds so fantastic. Why would this, popular Nazi rich man suddenly decide to help these Jewish people?" But then, like, as he got talking to this guy, he realized, no, this is a true story. And he's like, I need to tell it.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you what, guys. Watching clips of this movie to get prepared for the show was just
Nope.
wow.
Do you need to? I saw it once and I'm good.
I needed to. I felt like with a lot of these, I wanted to kind of watch just a bit to get the flavor of them again. And this is one where I got to the end and I was like, okay, I need candy or something.
This isn't a movie that you really watch in clips. Like, you have to like kind of sit down and commit yourself, and then you're done.
But the clips definitely got me.
Oh,
I
yeah,
remember
absolutely.
watching it all the way through.
It's not one of my favorite movies, obviously, but
No.
emotionally, functionally, acting and directing wise, one of the best made movies of all time.
It's pristine.
I don't think it will ever lose its relevance either.
Well, one of the reasons he made it black and white is because he wanted to make it more timeless.
And it worked.
Because it feels like that. It feels like it's been around forever, but it's really a 90s movie, but it doesn't feel like a 90s movie.
And then those moments when it's not black and white,
with the red coat.
like, just stand out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just so it's a masterpiece.
And
It
a
really is.
beautiful ending, spoiler alert, kind of, a beautiful ending as well, where you see the actual people involved paying tribute to the actual man's grave. It's beautiful. Like, it's a beautiful, horrible movie. And I say horrible in the sense of
Hard to
what
watch.
happens.
Yeah.
Not at all in quality.
All right, Joel, on that note,
Yeah, you're up next. Did you put this on yours, or do you just
No, that was
approve
one.
of the
Yeah, that
choice?
was one of my picks as
what's
well.
our next shared pick?
Our next shared pick is a World War II movie. I think everyone, when they first heard we were going to do this movie, this show of World Wars, was gonna
Dunkirk.
pick-
I know.
No, Bed Knobs and Broomsticks, 1971, based on World War
Joel?
II.
Joel?
What?
What?
No, it's not my pick.
Okay,
And
good.
for a national monument. No, well, let's just go with stay in the Spielberg vein. I'm picking Saving Private Ryan.
Yes, it is. It's Tom Hanks' face.
So
Saving
two got
Private
the
Ryan.
Tom
Hanks.
Hanks.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Tom Hanks face. I was thinking actually
Absolutely.
with the helmet on. Either the helmet on with like kind of the water or blood running down his face, or the end with him like holding a gun.
Yeah,
That's
let's
an
do the helmet on
amazingly-
because it's a hard
amazing
scene.
part.
Yeah.
Against the tank?
So, Saving Private Ryan, if you don't know, following the Normandy landings, a group of U.S. soldiers go behind enemy lines to retrieve a paratrooper whose brothers were killed in action. This was directed by Steven Spielberg again, who was on episode 65, Steven Spielberg and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, back in July.
He was on that episode?
Yeah. Didn't you remember that? He was on that episode with us? Oh, man. So, this was another one where I was like, I need to watch that opening sequence again. And so
How long is the opening sequence?
20 minutes.
27 minutes.
And can I ask, is it the only thing worth watching in the movie?
I've said this before on the show, and my feeling is that it is an amazing 20-minute opening with a good follow-up.
Yes.
Like the opening is what props up the movie as a great movie, but it's great.
I feel
for
like
that.
the better follow-up is Band of Brothers. Band of Brothers is the better version of Saving Private Ryan. to
really
me.
long. That's longer than Das Boot, the extended edition.
It's true. I actually don't love Saving Private Ryan.
I do.
The opening 20 minutes is like absolutely jaw-dropping.
I mean, it actually gave PTSD
Yes.
to people who had
You
been
say
there.
jaw dropping. Literally, there was one part
yeah.
when my mouth just hung open and I had to cover it, just like I can't believe I'm watching this again.
I
My
mean,
heart.
Then again, by the end, you're pretty speechless.
Well, it's beautiful at the end as well. And I
Right.
got emotional, obviously, while doing this one again, just because of it is, I was going to say, it's based on a true story. The Nyland brothers, Niland, after the three of his brothers died, the one guy was actually sent home because they're like, hey, your other brothers died. You're the only one left. You have to go home. And they actually found out that his other brother
was a POW. And so he's still alive.
The opening scene is Omaha Beach, the Normandy landings, and it is horrific. It's not like what is happening isn't completely accurate, meaning like the tactical, what they're doing, but the feel of it, a lot, like as Zach said, a lot of people said, yes, that's what it was like.
It's an interesting test of like stubbornness, really, for Tom Hanks' character in the movie, because they're trying to save one life. How many people die to do that one thing?
Yeah.
But even watching it, it's just, oh man.
Yeah.
That's the question, right?
Well, I was watching something that was basically saying, you know, as Spielberg was directing this, you know, he kind of just let that Normandy scene go because he wanted to see, you know, what people were doing, and it had a sense of chaos.
He
that
didn't
really comes
storyboard it.
across.
He just said go.
Yeah.
And this was actually the highest grossing film of 1998. Is that not weird to think about? Like
it is weird.
In like the decade of action flicks, you know, and dumb comedies, that this was like the highest grossing one. Nominated for 11 Academy Awards, where it won Best Director, Best Film Editing, Best Cinematography, Best Sound, Best Sound Effects Editing, Best Picture. No, that would to Shakespeare in Love.
So good.
Revote.
Yeah.
Everybody loves it.
But this really did kind of reintroduce not an obsession, that sounds bad, but an interest in World War II.
Well, and it changed how they're reviewed. I mean, there was a lot of like romantic veneer to those old movies. A lot of this movie is kind of based on real life, but The Longest Day did this Normandy scene as well.
A lot of them did, yeah.
But there was so much fluff around those movies, and this movie just took that away and said, let's go to war.
Well, especially because, you know, there's a long history of the, you know, your John Wayne rah-rah war movies, your Clint Eastwood
Which
rah-rah
kind of went away
war
with
movies.
Vietnam.
Yeah. And so this being so grounded and so real feeling, this was actually the first movie that the first R-rated movie that my dad showed to me. He actually sat me down. I was fairly young. He sat me down and said, "We're not going to watch this whole movie, but I need you to watch this first half an hour. I want you to respect when you see somebody who's fought in World War II or who was involved. I want you to feel some respect because this is the kind of thing that happened."
That was a heart-wrenching thing for me, too, is watching that and realizing they were kids. 18,
17,
19,
18,
20-year-old kids who didn't even get off the boat before they were killed.
Yeah.
That was just horrifying to me to think about that.
That's what I feel like modern war movies do really well, is show them looking like they're that young, that they're 19, possibly younger. Whereas a lot of older movies, these are 40-year-old guys acting like they're just barely going to war.
And this one, like, not even just movies, like this set the pace for war movies, but also you think video games like Call of Duty and things like that.
Medal of Honor was based on it.
Medal of Honor Frontline did the opening scene from
and so they
movie.
start, like, this became kind of the new norm, like the new yardstick that everyone had to be measured against.
There would be no Dunkirk without the first 20 minutes.
Prior to making Dunkirk, filmmaker Christopher Nolan consulted with Spielberg on how to portray the war scenes.
Yep.
Literally, he said, how do I do this?
Makes sense. Matt's masterclass right there.
Yeah.
I do like your take, though, that this is essentially built on that first scene. That first scene is one of the greatest movies ever.
Vin Diesel's best role?
Pacifier, probably.
It's just weird to see Vin Diesel out of all the faces.
That's true.
All of a sudden you have Vin Diesel there, and every time I saw him, I'm just like, family. Yeah. Okay, Kent, we agreed on two.
So we have two definite ones.
Yeah.
We've done this before.
I know,
These are
but
the
most definitive
Tom Hanks
choices.
and Bedknobs and Broomsticks. What else was it?
It was actually the war horse
Yes.
sitting atop the bedknobs and broomsticks.
If you don't stop with that warhorse,
Are we going to agree on a third?
We are not, actually, because I thought you'd use this for your national monument, but you used it for your personal. I'm going with Alec Guinness from Bridge on River Kwai.
I wondered.
Good choice.
It really is that kind of movie. Like I talked about how much I love Great Escape. This feels like the smart person's Great Escape.
Okay.
Like this is like the intellectual kind because it doesn't focus on sides.
That's why you knew so much about this
Exactly.
movie. I see.
This
now.
focuses on individuals, not sides. It shows how each person's national ties directly influence how they look at the bridge's construction. It's either British gumption or national jealousy, but both knowing that it must be completed. Mm-hmm. And they're like... I saw this one finally for our Best Picture one, and this is a Best Picture winner. Also, Best Actor, Alec Guinness, Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Cinematography, Editing, and Best Score. And the only thing it didn't win that it was nominated for was Best Supporting Actor. This is the number 13th movie on the AFI's Top 100 Movies of All Time list. So this movie has a huge impact. It is 2 hours and 41 minutes. So pretty much average for every movie we've talked about.
Yeah.
Except for Dunkirk, I think is probably the shortest one.
Yeah.
But this movie changed cinema in a lot of ways because it's a war movie that's not about the war. It is about these singular characters and a goal.
Yeah, that's a good pick.
So Alec Guinness.
But they can just come to my monument and see my paper mache version of his face. They don't need to see it in stone, Kent.
Really? You're only going to give him paper mache that's going to be overshadowed by a pine tree?
No, the pine tree's on the side. It's a small pine tree. But
It's going to grow.
What's your next one, Joel?
I think when we think of World War II, that there's a symbol, a visual that I think everyone will recognize.
Careful.
Yeah, really careful.
Captain America, the First Avenger. World War II.
Stop that.
It's just Captain holding his shield.
Stop that.
It's Chris Evans, you know him from Marvel movies.
Stop that right now.
If you're going here, I'm going with Wonder Woman because that scene in No Man's
Dang it, you
Land.
stole my next joke one.
Yeah, that is like honestly, I almost wanted to put that there because she saves the day in World War I.
She goes to no man's land.
Well, that really was a thing, though.
I know, but
So
the
it
way they
works.
said it, I'm like, okay, a little on the nose.
Yeah, of course it was.
Too bad the
No,
third
no.
act of that movie
No,
exists.
my third pick, third nominee for the National
sir.
Monument, Your Honor,
Yes, thank you.
is one I've talked about fairly recently on Baconsale before. I'm choosing 1970s Patton.
Okay.
Because just the image of George C. Scott standing there in his regalia with the American flag behind him, that to me, when I think of World War II movies, that is an image that I see when I think of World War II movies. Now, this is almost 3 hours long.
Well, aren't they all?
Then if you didn't listen to our one and done episode, which is where I said, look, I saw it once, I'll probably never watch it again. I actually may watch it again. After watching the clips again, I'm like, you know what? I did enjoy this movie. And I got a lot of feedback from people who said, you need to see this multiple times.
But you talked about how pretty much only the intro was good. And
No.
no. And you said the rest of the movie's just, it's okay.
No, that's what I said about that was Saving Private Ryan.
No, a
And
couple
Dunkirk.
weeks ago we talked about Patton.
No, what I said in that one is I said it doesn't feel like a 3-hour movie, which is good, as it's a well-made film, it's a strategic film, but it just was very long. And I was like, look, I got my historical vegetable. I call it vegetable movies because they're good for me. I've got my vegetable.
But taste bad.
And so, no, some vegetables are good. I like broccoli.
You're going to make me eat trees?
Say it.
Save for the vegetable tearing show.
Personal date story if anyone wants to hear it ever.
But I think that General Patton, and even just for what he did during the Battle of the Bulge and just war strategy.
That's an ugly mountain.
Correct.
No, George C. Scott.
Yes.
Beautiful man. This is another Best Picture winner, though. I chose another Best Picture winner. There was a lot of footage. There's some great warfare that goes on in this movie. And in fact, they filmed so much that they left a lot of the battles out of the final cut of Patton. And they ended up using it in a TV show later on, just like plugging in. They're like, oh, yeah, we have this leftover footage from the movie. Let's throw that in this TV show. A TV show called Fireball Forward. So
it's a spin-off show?
I have no idea. It was just war. They just had images of war. So yeah,
Patton on the Ritz would have been better.
I'm
sorry. I'll go.
Wow, those are some really big choices.
Yeah.
And you can make strong arguments for both.
And you can pick all of just mine.
You have two more, one each. What do you got?
My last nomination, Your Honor, because I'm going to play Joel's game.
I'll allow it.
Kissing up.
It's the most dangerous game, Kent.
Zach, I love you.
Playing from behind, buddy.
I'm going to go for a movie from 1962. It's a World War I movie.
Ooh, you choose a World War I pick finally.
Finally.
I'm proud of you.
Lawrence of Arabia.
Interesting.
3 hours
That
and
almost made-
48 minutes.
That almost made mine.
This is a movie
That's longer than Das Boot, the extended edition of Das Boot.
It is such a long movie. And granted, Joel and I have talked about this movie in the past. It's not our favorite movie, and it is a little difficult to sit through.
But cinematically, it's a feat.
It's astounding.
Yeah.
Right? So the story of T.E. Lawrence, the English officer who successfully united and led the diverse, often warring Arab tribes during World War I in order to fight the Turks. This is directed by David Lean, who we talked about, also did The Bridge on River Kwai, the other movie you're going to pick for the mountain, Zach. Starring Peter O'Toole, Alec Guinness, once again, Anthony Quinn, Omar Sharif, and Claude Rains. This is number 5 on AFI's Best Films of All Time list. It won 7 Oscars, which is Best Picture, Director, Cinematography, Art Direction, Sound, Editing, and Score. And I gotta stick with that real quick. Is it a little boring? Yes, but the score,
Very much so.
the cinematography, the blue eyes of Peter O'Toole.
I'm agreeing with everything you're saying here.
Are just gorgeous. I just want the blue eyes on the mountain. No, just kidding. Obviously, his
that would be creepy.
His face.
That's like Great Gatsby level creepy.
But I mean, even the character arc is pretty astounding, and it is based on actual person T.E. Lawrence, who was a little bit larger than life, and was more than happy to take on this role of hero. Because he started off as I think as a cartographer at the time.
I think so.
And then ended up bringing in, which it turned out really bad because of bureaucracy, but got these tribes to join the British side, and then the British wasn't super nice after that.
And that's the thing is I think this is a good pick, Ken. I'm not saying it should be on the money, but I'm saying this is a good pick because this is a side of the war you really don't hear much about, especially World War I, which is from the eastern side when the Ottoman Empire was joining forces with Germany, and then they had to fight the Ottoman Empire as well. And it's fascinating to watch that story because it's not one you normally hear. So I think that's a good pick.
Yeah, and so this was selected for preservation in 1991 by the Library of Congress for being culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant. And they said...
And super long.
But they said not only that, because they often do that with movies. They say, oh, this is significant. They say, this will continue to be significant.
I feel like this is definitely belongs in the one and done category. Like, I think everyone should see it. But see it once, and then you're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this has influenced so many directors, and it's the way film has changed and cinematography and the way this is filmed, like the journey. They make it go from a left to right as if the entire movie is a journey. A 4-hour journey, sure, but take the ride once. But honestly, my pick for The Mountain, if I get one, it would have to be Peter O'Toole.
Has to be.
With his beautiful blue eyes. I mean, come on, those eyes.
They're good eyes.
Keep it up, handsome. Okay. So that completes your nominees.
Yes.
So you've got
Alec Guinness,
Oscar Schindler,
who Joel picked for his personal.
I did.
Colonel Nicholson.
Yes.
Yep. You have Lawrence of Arabia, Oscar Schindler, and Captain Miller or Tom Hanks from Saving Private Ryan.
Which I think,
or Gal Gadot.
Both Captain Miller and Oscar Schindler are both getting a pass because we both agreed on them.
Yes.
They're both on the mountain. So now it's the next two slots we're debating on. And this is my wild card.
Uh-oh. Oh, I'm interested.
This is my one where I hope it gets on the National Monument.
Uh-oh.
I don't think it will. But I think more people should watch this movie.
Humphrey Bogart.
Can I make a guess?
Sure.
Jojo Rabbit?
No.
Good.
That's good, though. It's a fun movie, but it doesn't have the staying power yet.
Right.
We have to wait a couple years.
A Camera from 1917?
No.
We should give some love to
Ken already
1917.
took away my joke of saying Wonder Woman because this is a World War I film.
There we go.
This is the first Best Picture winner.
Oh, yeah.
This is the first movie to show aerial dogfights in cinema, and it's Wings.
It's pretty cool.
1927 Wings. This is a silent movie, the only silent movie to ever win Best Picture. Directed by William A. Wellman, who directed A Star is Born, the 1937 version. And actually, he was hired as the director because he was the only director in Hollywood at the time who had World War I combat experience. Now, this is 1927. There's an abnormal amount of nudity in this for 1927, and I say abnormal as it's very brief. This would be a PG-13 thing, but they didn't have the production code yet. But this movie, the synopsis: 2 young men, one rich, one middle class, who are in love with the same woman, become fighter pilots in World War I. So it has this kind of love triangle thing going on as well. So it's not just about the fighting, but the fighting is what you want to watch it for because there is no CGI. There is really very little any special effects.
Just a sepia filter.
They are
movie.
Yeah, they're literally getting these planes up in the air. They had, I think they said 300 pilots involved in the filming, and they're doing dogfights in the air, spinning around, going like that, and putting their lives in danger for the greatness of film. Now, it's almost like it seems simplistic to watch, but there's something I think in our brains that says that's real, that heightens the stakes.
Yes.
Because it's not as like, cool filmed as like a Michael Bay Pearl Harbor scene or something like that, which the attack scene in Pearl Harbor, really good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Rest of the movie,
trash.
But that scene is worth seeing.
Kate Beckinsale.
Kate Beckinsale's in the right.
Kate Beckinsale also is.
Okay, take it easy.
But like I said, aerial fighting really came to the front line in World War I. This showcases that. This became the yardstick against other future aviation films were measured because it was realistic. People watched this and said, yeah, that's real air combat. And it's impressive to watch. And actually, during the whole time they were filming this, which one of the main actors could actually fly. He was an aviator pilot. The other one didn't. He had to take flying lessons because they wanted to get footage of them in the cockpit flying the planes.
They actually let them.
Yeah, and they had like a mount on there that they would had to build onto the planes they had to do. Only 2 incidents occurred. One, some person broke their neck. The other one, someone died.
Hold on. You just glossed over those.
But I'm just saying, out of all,
you talked about accessory nudity for like 4 minutes. So you just glossed over the broken necks.
But I just was surprised by. I remember when I first watched this, I was like, "Whoa, that's not allowed."
This movie's awesome.
But like it is like it's just an amazing feat to watch these scenes and realize that they pulled it off with very little thing.
I've talked about my disdain for a lot of those early Best Picture winners, but when you do see the aerial combat in this one, like it made me wake up and go, "Oh my gosh, that's cool."
There's scenes where they show bombs dropping, and I'm pretty sure they're really dropping bombs
right.
on houses. Like it's kind of amazing to watch. And I don't want to say this, but I do want to say this. Like there's that the love triangle and everything I talked about. So there's like this human element to it, but there's also this twist at the end that I did not see coming, and it kind of made this movie much more emotional and much more powerful.
When Josh
and much more
Hartnett
memorable.
dies,
Yes, and then and then Alec
Ben
Baldwin
Affleck.
has a whole huge thing.
What a twist!
No.
I'm off the show. I can't handle this anymore. You guys got to stop.
Well, and for many years, this was considered a lost film. Like it was the first Best Picture winner. No one had access to it until in 1992 they found a print in Paris in the film archive,
Awesome.
and they quickly copied it from the nitrate film to safety film stock. So now we all have it because of that. Because France had it. So thank you, France.
Nice.
That would have messed with
For
your
something.
OCD so bad.
I know if I couldn't
Thank you,
say that one.
France, for something. Hold on, I glossed over that. I surrendered
After
to that.
Just after watching a lot of the World War I and World War II history, I was like, "Come on, France!"
See what they did in
Pull it
Dunkirk?
together.
Good stuff.
I was going to say something then, but I didn't want to do it then because they were being heroic then. Don't want to end on that note.
If you love classic film, definitely watch Wings.
So, are you putting a plane as your
Yes,
head?
it's gonna be one of the dogfighting planes, kind of coming out of the mountain with the wing, like half the front wing. There.
Those
and
photo ops
propeller.
sound really dangerous because people are going to try to get on that plane.
Like I
Yeah.
said, this is my wild card, but I was like, I want to have World War I representation, and I wanted to choose something different that I think more people should know about. So, Wings, 1927. Check it out. Even if it isn't put on our mountain, you should check it out.
So, Zach, you're choosing between.
Well, I need to think about this. While we do so, do you guys want to bring up some honorable mentions if you have any?
There are so many.
Can I just run
many.
through the list of
Yeah.
movies that I put down personally?
Yeah.
So World War I movies, I put 1917 in there. I did put Warhorse, actually.
I watched Warhorse the other day.
It's
in
really
jest.
boring. It's really boring.
It's
but
like A Dog's Purpose.
yeah.
But with the horse, honestly, there's some emotional parts. Like
There
it's a
is.
Spielberg movie that doesn't feel very Spielbergian,
Yeah.
but it's effective for a little bit.
Were you in defensive mode or something?
Kind of.
A little bit.
You're not supposed to be listening. You're supposed to be thinking.
Oh, I'm thinking.
The third, I think it's the third Best Picture winner ever, All Quiet on the Western Front. It's from the German
I
perspective.
rewatched that too. Honestly, almost made my personal list.
It almost made mine too.
because
really
it talks about the madness that war brings on. Apparently, there's a remake in '79 as well, which is
yeah?
almost just as good. But it's a fascinating movie.
Yeah. I did put Lawrence of Arabia honorable mentions. My World War II honorable mentions, there's so many, but I'll just run through these real quick. I did put Jojo Rabbit as an honorable mention because I was like, that was really cool. Dunkirk, Hacksaw Ridge, Darkest Hour, Boy in the Striped Pajamas, The Wind Rises. I did put Saints and Soldiers in there and Memphis Belle. Inglorious, what do we call them?
Barstead.
Casablanca, The Great Escape, The Dirty Dozen, The King's Speech, Swing Kids.
No Casablanca, huh?
I did put Casablanca there.
I know, but not on a mountain.
It's separated enough for the war.
You don't want to
that-
put a little bogey on the mountain?
Colonel Bogey.
Zach, don't listen. Do your thing.
The Best Years of Our Lives, Mrs. Miniver, Das Boot. I had there as like, I want to see that. Tora 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 is another one I said I want to see. A Bridge Too Far, I just barely watched.
Worth watching?
Parts.
Okay.
It's one of those where the parts didn't come together. And then my dad, when I want to bring this up. When I went to my dad and I'm like, hey, Dad, you're a dad. What are your favorite war movies? He said Run Silent, Run Deep and Stalag 17, which I went, I've never heard of either one of those.
Right.
So I went and watched them. Both really good.
Run Silent, Run Deep. Really good, actually. It's
Yeah,
a submarine
Clark
movie.
Gable.
Except
and,
for when they have the submarine models in the water, you can see the strings pulling
Oh,
them.
jeez.
Which is kind of funny. Maybe
what
I'd
is
see
the
it on
other
my
actor's
big
name?
TV.
Clark Gable. Who do you go toe to toe with? Burt Lancaster. That's who it is.
That's it.
And then Stalag 17, like I said, is a comedy based in a World War II POW camp. It's kind of bizarre, but it's really cool to see a lot of these personalities come together. So there's my picks.
So you named a whole bunch that I was going
did.
to name as well.
Sorry.
I watched a documentary called They Shall Not Grow Old, and this is the one Peter Jackson did 2 years ago. And he basically colorized documentary footage and did voiceover from the soldiers as he's showing kind of like the depiction of British soldiers going into war, British, New Zealand, Aussie soldiers. And it is so fascinating. Like, please watch it because they're showing these images of these soldiers. And then in the next scene, you may see that soldier dead, but it gives faces to the carnage in this war.
Did you end up watching Tora Tora Tora?
No, that's one on my list I really want to
Okay,
watch.
that's one that I thought you'd seen.
Zach, have you seen They Shall Not Grow Old?
Yeah, and I actually got a little distracted it's fascinating movie making. What they did with CGI to stitch together the footage and colorization and voiceover and Foley work. It's masterful movie making, almost to the point where it distracts, but it really does add this human side to, and you really connect with these people in a way that you don't when you look at it normally.
Sorry, I had one more. Went the Day Well? It's a question. Went the Day well?
I haven't seen it.
1942. It's about an English village occupied by disguised German paratroopers. I mean, think Red Dawn, but not as corny.
Okay.
And it's very well done. I forgot about that one too. You just reminded me of that.
Yeah.
But a few other ones. Paths of Glory, Guns of Navarone. Oh man, there's so many movies I watched lately. I want to be able to get them straight.
Those are two that I was like,
Where Eagles Dare is amazing.
Clint Eastwood?
It's amazing.
It's fantastic. I
And
love
then-
that movie.
Yeah,
that'd be
definitely
on my
watch it.
personal if I ever did.
And then
Where Eagles Dwell or When Eagles Dwell?
Where Eagles Dare.
Dare. That's right. Yeah.
And then
I
also
was so off.
The Dirty Dozen.
Yes.
So much fun.
That is the better version of Suicide Squad.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. What about Letters from Iwo Jima?
Haven't seen it.
Haven't seen this.
haven't seen either.
It's gut wrenching in all of the war movie ways. Because at the Clint Eastwood in pretty short succession made 2 World War movies. I can't remember the other one.
Flags of Our Fathers.
Flags of Our Fathers. Meh. It's fine. Letters from Iwo Jima. I
Bridges
think
of Madison County.
it's a little bit harder. It's on the from the Japanese side of it, and I would recommend it. It's a one and done, but
Okay.
I'd recommend it for sure. Anything else, gentlemen?
That is it.
All right, Zach, kind of make your
I'm gonna
pick.
tell you my logic behind it. I thought about what people are expecting to see when they see this monument.
The World War Monument.
I think in the World War Monument, I'm taking. So obviously we have Oscar Schindler, Liam Neeson, Captain Miller, Tom Hanks from Schindler's List and Saving Private Ryan, respectively. Joel, you put it on your personal, and Kent, you picked it on your national. I think Bridge of the River Kwai is signature. I think it really is. Like, if I think about World War II or just World War movies, like these three are the first 3 that I think about.
It's one of the greats.
And the fourth one I think about, I referenced it in my intro, it's Patton.
Yes.
So only World War II's going on the mountain?
I think because of
Poor Lawrence.
now, Lawrence of Arabia was a fantastic choice, Ken. That really is a good choice, but it did shift my thinking a little bit. I think if I'm looking at a monument, I wouldn't think about that right away. Though, like, you can make an argument of it going on the Rushmore of all-time great filmmaking movies.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do think when you're thinking about it from that war perspective, you just see Patton. You see the just that opening scene with
It's
the flag.
true. Yeah.
So I think, even though you got 2 helmeted guys in there, in Tom Hanks and George C. Scott, I think it's signature and connected to what we're talking about today.
I'm okay with this decision.
Yeah, me too.
All right,
But
so the official
very
mountain
good
then
choice.
is, can you just run through the official
Official
mountain?
Mountain is from Schindler's List, Oscar Schindler, played by Liam Neeson. From Saving Private Ryan, Captain Miller, played by Tom Hanks. From Bridge on the River Kwai, Colonel Nicholson, played by Alec Guinness. And from Patton, General Patton, played by George C. Scott.
That sounds like a World War monument.
That is,
I was going to say.
but it is World War II. But I think it's so ingrained in our history and our media. And I think part of the reason is we had, at that time, we started to advance in media, right? We had more radio and film, and people would go
They had
to the
war
movies.
footage, yeah.
People would go to the movies, and you would just watch in the movie theater. You'd watch the tales of what was happening out on the battlefield and the rah-rah of the country all getting behind it. So I think that's why you were seeing so much more media in it. And there's really good, I call it the Great War, but World War I stuff. But World War II is signature us.
I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but when we did our other war movie show episode, a couple episodes back, a lot of those movies had this really kind of hopeless, bleak despair to it. I'm thinking of the Vietnam movies specifically.
Right.
But these ones, even when they're down, like even when it's like, Saving Private Ryan and Schindler's List, there's still this kind of like inspiring hope in them.
Yes.
I don't think it's as grim as those other ones. Like even though it's depressing, it's not the same kind of depressing, if that makes sense.
Right. Because even if, characters are to die, you invest so much time in the character that it isn't like a death. There's still a victory in it.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm okay with the rah-rah movies. I'm okay with the sad ones. I think there's something to be said about watching these movies to both educate yourself. And I'm not saying you should accept these movies as like, this is what happened. I think watching these movies helps, like Zach said, it gives you perspective on what that generation went through and helps you kind of realize, the sacrifices that were made to make our country the way it is.
And now that I'm even more of a dad because I've been watching so many, I wear socks and sandals and eat corn nuts all day.
Wait, corn nuts are a dad thing?
Oh, they're such a dad thing.
Dang it, I love corn nuts.
Of course you do. You have
Ranch
900
corn's the
children.
Yeah.
Go mow the lawn in your New Balance. Get those babies green.
But we want to know from you. We want to know which movies you put on your personal monument and which one you put on the national monument. Let us know if we got it right or if you think we're wrong. Like I said, we're not going for historical accuracy. We're going for films that we love and films that are really great. So let us know on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We'd love to hear from you.
But before we go, we want to give some shout outs to our patrons. We have from the I Am the Listener category, Terry Finley, Adrian Gray, Chris Drought, Braden Winterton, Colton Cook, Jennifer Kilkowski, Sean Sandquist, Kyler Just Wants Joel's Approval, Alicia Bass, Crew Dutler, and Scott Sprague.
Thank you. Thank you.
And from the Bacon Council, we have Nicole D. Hale, Chris Anderson, Ryan Farron, Stephen Ross, Matt Smudro, and Reverse Listener.
Hoorah!
We just met with them, actually. Hope you guys enjoyed your time there. But if you want to find me, you can find me at 76Joel on Twitter, or you can find me performing with Quick Quits online. For more details of when performances happen, go to qwcomedy.com or go to the Quick Quits Facebook page.
If you want to find me on Twitter and Instagram, it's at Kenny3DD. And if you want to read my upcoming movie reviews, it's ShowtimeShowdown.com.
If you want to connect with me, you can do so on Instagram and Twitter at Tumbling Mustard. But most importantly, when you're out there on the social media world, make sure you are following Baconsale at Baconsale on Twitter and Instagram and like the Baconsale Facebook page. And while you're doing that, stop by tpublic.com/Baconsale and get yourself a shirt, a pillow, a mug, a keychain, anything with the Baconsale logo on it. And there's some great designs on there. And then if you'd like to support the show, you like what's going on, you can go to patreon.com/Baconsale. Support starts at just $3 a month. If you like what you're seeing, if you like what you're hearing, you can listen to our patron shows, our Pacon Bits, where we're having a lot of fun there every week. But with that, all right now, you sons of Baconsale, you know how I feel. Oh, I will be proud to listen to your wonderful guys on a podcast anytime, anywhere. That's all.
Is she
the
Team
context.
Jacob Black or is she Team Jacob Rogers? I don't know.
The one that takes his shirt off.
¿Por qué no los dos?
I learned something. If nothing else, if you guys hate my picks, I still learned something.
See, I think your war movie sucks.
I know who you should pick.
Mindset, death, destruction, dismemberment. Okay. Let's get pumped up to Him for the Fallen, y'all.
Sometimes I say Barsteads.
Barstead.
We'll go with that.
Inglorious Barsteads.
Inglorious Barsteads.
Yes.
Quentin Tarantino's movie.
Inglorious Barsteads.
Yeah,
It's the PG-13 version.
Yeah.
But that's also the thing about the Barsteads is makes it sound like a
family.
Barstead quartet.
Hey guys, I agreed with Joel.
Eyes of death right now.
You're calling me a Barstead?
If you're in it for the boom boom, Kent, then that's fine.
I'm in it for the boom boom.
I was literally unloading the dishwasher, and I was like, don't cry, don't cry.
Okay.
I don't know if that means anything.
We're having a sleepover with the Pope.
Weirdly enough, he also likes Batman and Robin, so we'll see.
Can you imagine Pope John Paul liking Batman and Robin?
I like the ice fun.
It's one of my
favorites.
Is it a guilty pleasure if the Pope likes it? I'm putting another German up on my mountain.
Oh boy. How handsome is he, though?
Are you crying right now?
I'm trying not to. Wow.
Fun facts from
Fun
Schindler's
fact from
List.
Schindler's List. Wow. George C. Scott?
Yes.
Beautiful man. Thank you, France. Nice.
That would have messed with
For
your
something.
OCD so bad.
I know if I couldn't
Thank you,
go.
France, for something. Hold on, I glossed over that.
Come on, France. Maybe I shouldn't mock the French people. But at the same time, I was like, why, France?
I wear socks and sandals and eat corn nuts all day.
Wait, corn nuts are a dad thing?
Oh, they're such a dad thing.
Dang it, I love corn nuts.
Of course you do.
Go mow the lawn in your New Balance.
Matchy Matchy.
Finger hoof.
Oh, no. Please,
Finger
listener,
hoof?
help me.
Hold on, not hoof.
I don't
poop?
know that.
I said finger hoof.
I don't know.
Finger hoof.